And our winner, Vice President Cheney. Seymour Hersh's reporting sometimes seems way out there, but usually he winds up having actually understated reality, so let's just keep this in the probably file for now. He told the Campus Progress Journalism Conference that in a meeting in the Vice President's office, members of the administration sat around brainstorming ideas to provoke a war with Iran. Quote, the one that interested me the most was, why don't we in our shipyard, build 4 or 5 boats that look like Iranian PT boats, put Navy SEALs on them with a lot of arms, and the next time one of our boats goes to the Straits of Hormuz, start a shoot-up. Might cost some lives, and it was rejected because you can't have Americans killing Americans. That's the level of stuff we're talking about. Provocation, but that was rejected. Can you see this happening in Cheney's office? Sure you can. Can you see Cheney getting all happy and worked up and almost smiling? Sure you can. Can you see when they get to the part about Americans being killed and you can't do that, and he just stares at them all and says, so? Vice President Dick Cheney, today's worst person in the world.
There are literally hundreds of examples of government-sponsored terrorism in modern history, or what are known as false flag operations. We're going to start by looking at just 5 past examples. Then we'll look at several modern cases. What is a false flag? The encyclopedia definition reads, false flag operations are covert operations conducted by governments, corporations, or by other organizations which are designed to appear as if they were carried out by other entities. The name is derived from the military concept of flying false colors, that is, flying the flag of a country other than your own. There are many variants of false flag operations, but one of the most popular carried out by governments is to stage a terror attack or horrible criminal incident and then blame it on your political enemies.
There's a bit at the end of this latest article that you wrote that I found actually most interesting in the article. It hasn't got that much attention, but I want to get your take on this. And this relates to a story or an incident that happened a couple of months ago. Many of you remember it. It was in the Strait of Hormuz. There was an incident where an American carrier almost blew a couple of Iranian speedboats out of the water and perhaps would have started the next war, a war against Iran, or potentially a World War III. And it was averted, thankfully, at the last second. We later learned that there was really nothing to be terribly concerned about. The incident was overblown, and that there was a vice admiral in charge of the fleet in the Strait of Hormuz who said basically there was no concern there, that it was overblown.
Well, yeah, the second part basically, he was concerned, but it wasn't.
It was overblown.
We were never threatened.
We were never threatened, and you talk about this vice admiral's name is Kevin Cosgriff, and in your article you write, nonetheless, Cosgriff's demeanor angered Cheney, according to the former senior intelligence official. But a lesson was learned in the incident. The public had supported the idea of retaliation and was even asking why the U.S. didn't do more. The former official said that a few weeks later a meeting took place in the vice president's office. Quote, the subject was how to create a casus belli between Tehran and Washington, he said. What you're writing there is that Cheney, there was a meeting in the White House where Cheney presided over, looking to cook up the next war, a false war based on false intelligence.
My oldest son is a lawyer, and when I sent him the story before it was published, basically in a final form, just a day, and he wrote back and he said, you really buried the lead in this one, about casus belli. How many press are here? Anyway, there was a meeting among the items considered and rejected, which is why the New Yorker did not publish it on grounds that it wasn't accepted. One of the items was why not there was a dozen ideas proffered how to trigger a war. The one that interested me the most was why don't we in our shipyard build 4 or 5 irate boats that look like Iranian PT boats, put Navy SEALs on them with a lot of arms, and the next time one of our boats goes through the Straits of Hormuz, start a shoot-up. Might cost some lives, and it was rejected because you can't have Americans killing Americans. But that's the level of stuff we were talking about, provocation. But that was rejected. So I could understand the argument of not writing something that was rejected. Maybe. I basically, my attitude always towards editors is they're mice training to be rats. So, but you have to, you know, but the point is, J. June, if you know what that means, silly, maybe, but potentially very lethal, because one of the things they learned in the incident was the American public, if you get the right incident, the American public will support, you know, bang, bang, kiss, kiss, you know, we're into it. And the public, although that was the other side that had issue that was important, what happened in the Gulf, in the Straits in early January, the president was just about to go to the Middle East for a visit. So it was all, that was one reason they wanted to gin it up, get it going. Look, is it high school? Yeah. Are we playing high school with, you know, 5,000 nuclear warheads in our arsenal? Yeah, we are. We're playing, you know, who's the first guy to run off the highway with us in.
He is a 9/11 survivor, the last person out of the World Trade Center North Tower. Well, on September 11th, William Rodriguez saved an estimated hundreds of people from the World Trade Center after putting his own life on the line. He then became trapped under the debris from the tower for hours before rescuers managed to free him from the rubble. And here with us now to share his really amazing story is William Rodriguez. William, is it William, Bill, which do you prefer?
Maria, for you is Willie.
Thanks, Willie. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. We really appreciate it. Why don't you tell me what happened on that dark day?
Well, basically, we are doing a presentation. It's a story of hope, expectation, motivation, and disposition of what the human spirit can do in a moment of despair. I worked in the building for 20 years. I was the person in charge of all the stairwells of the North Tower. And on 9/11, I had the only master key that opened the doors that rescue people. This is the master key. They call it the key of hope. And basically, I was a janitor. Like I said, on that day, there was an explosion on the basement. And this is prior to the building got hit by the plane. And then the plane hit, and then there was a series of explosions afterwards. And a person comes running into the office saying, explosion, explosion, explosion. His skin was pulled all from his armpits all the way to the top of the fingertips, and pieces missing off his face. And then it was total chaos. I started putting people outside the building and went back inside 3 times, basically rescuing people from the basement. And then at the third time, I just went with the master key and I started opening the doors for the fire department so they could actually help people to escape from the stairwells. At the very last moment, there was a person on a wheelchair that needed to be basically given first aid. As I brought him down, the building started to collapse. Actually, I got him to the lobby. When I put him on the lobby, I went to set up an ambulance, and the building started to collapse. And I saw a fire truck, and I slept right under the fire truck, and the building basically buried me. And I survived under the rubble. Everybody else died.
Oh, my God. I don't even really know where to go after that.
It's a very emotional event, but after 9/11, I became an activist, a leader for the victims. I created the Hispanic Victims Group and the Victim Support Group, and basically and I said, okay, I'm going to be late. I made it at 8:30 in the morning, 8:30. And I went straight to the basement, number 1 of the tower. The building has 6 sub-levels of basement, B1, B2, all the way down to B6. Our support office for American Building Maintenance, that was the company that I worked for, was located on B1. So I went there, I'm talking to the supervisor in front of the door, when all of a sudden at 8:46, talking to him, there's 14 people in the office, we hear, boom! An explosion so powerful and so loud that pushed us upwards in the air coming from below. And it was so powerful that all the walls cracked, the false ceiling fell on top of us, the sprinkler system got activated, and everybody started screaming in horror, help, 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 because we didn't know what was going on. Everybody screaming. The first thing that comes to my mind is that a generator just blew out on the mechanical room. The mechanical room was located right below us on the B2 basement number 2. And that's where you have all the generators, all the water pumps, all the machinery for the elevators. Everything was there. But I'm speculating. I'm speculating. I'm saying it's a generator to myself. Not that it ever was a generator, because I never know what it was. I never find out what it was. But when I went to verbalize it, because everybody's screaming in horror, we hear, bah! And an explosion all the way on the top of the building. And that was the plane hitting the top. Two different events, separated by almost 7 seconds. Different events.